Hello and welcome to another edition of the Michigan Conservative Roundtable. Marty and Mac here with you today, and we would like to talk about abortion. This is an issue that's coming to a head. It's always been a very serious issue, but in light of so many states having now passed the heartbeat bills, where you can't have an abortion after a fetal heartbeat is detected, and then states such as New York and Illinois that are going to the other extreme and allowing abortion right up to the moment of birth, this is an issue that's going to see some court action, and a bit of an aside right off the bat, it makes me glad to see we've got an increasingly conservative court system that hopefully will battle this. Anyway, what I really wanted to, Mike, Mac and I, we really wanted to get into today was the major reasons that people are for abortion and why these reasons are ultimately wrong. One of the first things that comes to mind about me is they say abortion is about control. Well, I'm not going to debate that, but the fact is it's not about control any more than any law that's made is about control. Every law made is about control, so if you want to argue that abortion is bad because it's about control, I guess I'd want to ask you how many other laws are you going to be against? Because they're all about control. Right. So where do we go with that, okay? Women's sovereignty over her own body. That's the next thing. She's got the right to decide what to do with her own body. Is it her own body, Mac?
No, it isn't. Okay. It's a separate human being.
It's a separate human being.
It's not a, as they claimed in the past, a blob of cells. I mean, science has brought this to the fore. The advances in science have brought it crystal clear. We can see the infant in the womb now through ultrasound. We can do DNA testing to determine if it's human. If they do surgeries in the womb.
Yeah.
So
it's going to have a separate DNA from his mother. Right. So it's a separate body, and I'm not even that sure that control of the body is a salient issue anyway. We have laws against drug abuse, alcohol abuse, laws against suicide. We try to force vaccinations on people. We try to influence how people use their bodies all the time, and I think rightly so. So the issue about it being the woman's body, science and common sense tell us that human women have human babies. So it's not just her body involved anyway. People will say we can't go about legislating morals. First thing that comes to my mind is show me a law where you're not legislating morality.
Absolutely.
You know, every law out there is an attempt at legislating morality. And it gets benign in my opinion. Why do you have to drive on the right side of the road? Why is that a law? Because we are recognizing the moral need for order on the highways. Okay, so I don't care what the law is. It's legislating someone's morality, you know. So that argument for abortion is off the table, you know. I really have never had any use for the argument. I'm personally against abortion, but I cannot force my beliefs on other people.
Yeah, that's I hate to use this term cop out, but that's what it is.
Yeah, it's absolutely a cop out. I mean, I think it's intellectually dishonest to be totally to be totally upfront, to be totally honest about it. You know, again, how many laws are you for that you don't mind forcing your morality on people? Recycling, immigration, murder, theft, zoning laws, for crying out loud.
Yeah, it's your property, yet they can tell you what you can and can't do on it.
Yeah.
And I understand that to some measure. I mean, you don't want to have a missile silo in your front yard. But
absolutely not. The libertarian argument is you don't want a slaughterhouse next to your home, and I get that, you know. But, you know, personally against, I cannot force my beliefs on other people. I'm going to sound like a bit of a broken record on this. Any law you've got is forcing a belief on somebody. Right. You know, the real question is, should we try to force this belief on them? So, no. Don't buy the personally against, but I cannot force it on people. Right. Because we don't live that way. Not a single one of us. A lot of people who are for abortion like to say things like, well, oh, you conservatives, you're for abortion, but you don't care about what happens to the child after he's born. Well, I don't know. Do you care about babies after they're born, Mac?
Absolutely.
Absolutely, and I do too. So don't presume that I don't care about them, or Mac or TJ or any of our conservative brothers and sisters. Don't presume we don't care about them, because we do. The thing you've got with abortion here that they don't want to concede is, you know, it's okay to work towards one particular goal. Do you get mad at the American Cancer Society because they're not doing anything against diabetes? Do you get mad at St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital because they're not doing anything against adult illnesses? Do you get mad at your tire guy because he won't adjust your fuel injectors? No, you don't. No, you don't.
Well, there's probably somebody out there who does.
Probably somebody out there who does.
Some idiot.
That's why we're even talking about this.
Right.
Yeah, that there are people who get mad at this. But it's senseless to be mad about things like that, you know. It's okay to focus your energies on one thing. Yes, what happens to children and mothers after birth is very important. They're also separate questions when it comes down to it. And do what you can, but if your immediate focus is anti-abortion, there's not a thing in the world wrong with that. And questions of afterwards are questions of afterwards.
I won't get into the organization that I belong to that does these kind of things, but I've worked fundraiser after fundraiser after fundraiser that takes care of the needs of pregnant women after they've given birth, when they have the child. Get a car seat, place to live, clothes for the baby, food for the baby. If that's not caring, I don't know.
Yeah, and I don't know a conservative who's against any of those things.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know a conservative that's against it.
And no one forced me to do it. I did that on my own.
Yeah, exactly. You know, so, pardon me. So it's okay to focus on one issue. It really, really is. I mean, that's one of the reasons there's millions and millions of people out there. Is so we've got different people that can concentrate on different things, you know. Different functions, but the same body, St. Paul says.
Right.
You know, so don't presume too much about us, okay? We do care about what happens to kids afterwards. But where there's life, there's hope. If that kid isn't born, then what happens after birth doesn't matter.
Of the 50 million plus, I was thinking about this earlier today, 50 million plus abortions we've had in this country in the last 40 years, who have we killed?
Yeah.
I mean, what kind of, can we kill the person who's going to cure cancer or make us live longer or bring peace to the earth? We just don't know.
We're killing the future. We're killing all possibility of the future when we allow things like this. Some people are against or for abortion because being anti-abortion is being prejudiced against women. I don't know how to address that. I mean, it's a reflection of biological reality. You know, and this sounds far more flippant than I mean it, believe me, but women have the babies. I mean, you know, if it's
how it works.
That's how it works. I don't see how you can say that the way things are prejudiced. You know, at least the way things are in nature.
And you can't ignore the fact that statistically about half of those babies are female.
Yeah, exactly.
And you can't be for women while you're killing women. That just defies logic.
Boom. Absolutely. You know, you're killing your own sisters, ladies. What about that? You know, and I'm going to tread lightly here, but I'm going to go ahead and say I'd love to understand how any mother could be for abortion. I really don't get that. I see so many mothers that dawdle on their babies, and they should, and brag about their babies on Facebook, and they should, and that's all well and good. And a lot of these women I know are pro-abortion. I don't get that. I really don't. I'd love to have a good answer to that. You know, how can you be for killing that child in the womb? That's the you know, apple of your eye once they're born. I don't get the distinction.
Right.
Boggles my mind completely. Then the real difficult, and I'll admit this is the difficult part, is when the pro-abortion people talk about what about children of rape, incest, or where the life of the mother is involved. These are areas where we do need to be very charitable. And most conservatives I know would agree with me on that point. But the problem is you still have a baby there.
You still have a human being.
You still have a human being. And that human being's got the same right to life, no matter what its exact origins were. You know, that baby still has a right to life. And the really tricky one, I'll admit, is when the life of the mother is at stake. And all I can say about that is, I don't see how you can actively kill an innocent person for the sake of saving another life.
Yeah, it's a difficult question. I think everyone's entitled to defend their own life or have their own life, so it's a tricky one.
Well, to borrow something from our progressive friends, from our liberal friends, that's probably the closest issue where my recommendation would be that should be between the mother and the doctor and their God, their religion.
And their father.
And their father.
Got to have a say here.
Oh, yeah. One of the biggest bits of hypocrisy I've ever seen from my progressive friends is that, you know, if mama wants to abort the baby, dad has nothing to say, but if mama wants to have the baby, he better pay child support.
Yes.
No, wait a minute. No, wait a minute. You know,
it's a lose-lose for the man if you want to consider it a loss.
Yeah.
I don't, but
yeah. Well, of course, the man. Of course, the man should be, if he impregnates a woman, he is responsible for that child. And we're certainly not arguing against that, you know. But it's very, very interesting, and it becomes, with all due respect, ladies, it becomes an issue of convenience. If I don't want the baby, you can't make me have the baby. But if I want the baby, you have to help me support
Well, I
the
heard
baby.
someone defend it that way. He said, well, a guy I used to work with said that, and he was proud of the fact that he had caused, I want to say, 12 abortions, which I thought was horrific. But he would say, hey, you know, I didn't ask for them.
Yeah.
And I said, well, but you did.
Yeah, you did.
You did the thing. I mean, if I take a cake batter and eggs and milk and I stir it up and I put it in the oven, and then I say, well, how did this become a cake? I mean, come on.
Well, there's two types of consent, really. There's the overt consent, yes, I want to do this, and then there's the implied consent.
Right.
And you know what? When you sleep with a woman, there's the implied consent that you want the child, guys.
You're responsible.
You are responsible. Okay?
If I'm responsible for every round that leaves my pistol, well, I'll just let you do the math there.
We're now PG-13, folks.
Yeah.
Anyway, at the end of the day, you know what I think is going to happen is it's going to be fought out in the courts, like I mentioned at the beginning. And I have to say, even myself, I'm no big constitutional scholar, but I think constitutionally, abortion is a question that's going to end up left to the states. And I'm okay with that. It's at least something.
That's where the question started.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not spelled out in the Constitution, so it's not spelled. They tried to use privacy. That's a non sequitur. That's garbage. It's not spelled out in the Constitution, so then it goes under the 10th Amendment, which is anything not spelled out in the Constitution becomes a state right. That's where we're going to go right back to.
That's where we're going to go.
I'm not convinced it's going to play out that way. I think the court, in their arrogance, may not want to reverse themselves and let it stand where it is, and
that's
God help us all.
That's something to be concerned with, because it's not unusual for people to get put on the Supreme Court, and John Roberts comes to mind, quite frankly. They're put up as conservatives, and then they decide they want to write their own legacy, so they go against what they'd always preached up to that point.
Well, it's not even that they're a conservative or a liberal judge. They become an activist judge.
Boom.
It's not his place to make the law.
Boom. Exactly.
So, there you
exactly. So I'm hoping that's how it plays out. That's kind of my guess. That's how it's going to play out. Mac and I have a bit of a modest disagreement there, but you know what? Conservatives are okay with disagreeing with each other, because I'm not going to knock the MAGA head off his head. Anyway.
Not twice, anyway.
Anyway, to bring this full circle and get back to the argument, to the abortion issue, got anything to add to that, or are we?
No, I think we covered it well.
I'm going to tell you point blank, abortion is a moral evil because abortion is murder. And common sense tells us as much, and all the arguments that the pro-abortion people use are bad arguments. That's our Michigan Conservative Roundtable edition for today. As always, be safe, watch your six, and don't tread on me.